think by now, statistically speaking, around 2.5% of all humans alive on Earth today have played Grand Theft Auto V at some point. The game has sold 215 million copies worldwide since its initial release all the way back in 2013. 12 whole years ago. My god. Which firmly, and I mean firmly, cemented Grand Theft Auto as the most popular and successful franchise in all of gaming that's not named Minecraft.
Fat weasel!
Out of all the thousands and thousands of game franchises and IPs in existence, Grand Theft Auto is the king. It's the LeBron James of game franchises, if you will. And if you haven't played GTA, you've certainly at least heard about it. I mean, trailers for Grand Theft Auto 6 are breaking viewership records due to the unprecedented amount of hype for the game. Each trailer easily getting about 100 million plus views in a week. And if you haven't heard about GTA at all, oh hey Nana, I didn't know you watched my YouTube videos. But with Grand Theft Auto 6 finally getting a solid release date for May 2026, safe to say that fall 2025 release wasn't fooling anyone. We knew that crap was getting delayed like a flight out of Newark. But this second trailer had me fiending for some GTA, because if Grand Theft Auto 6 actually lives up to the hype and plays as good as it looks in these trailers, I believe it could be the first truly next generation gaming experience that the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, or whatever it's called, were sold on the promise of. A game that pushes the 9th console generation's technology to new heights, creating the most detailed, realistic, reactive, and just straight up beautiful digital world ever made by human hands. But GTA as a series isn't a stranger to this unique situation, as they were in a very similar spot to this one back in 2008, when their new Grand Theft Auto game, Grand Theft Auto 4, was close to being released. Being the first entry in Rockstar's newly minted HD universe, Grand Theft Auto 4 was shaping up to be a true envelope pusher for the PS3 and 360 era, pushing the console's hardware to their graphical limits, along with featuring a cutting-edge physics engine and character animation system, and a raw, gritty, and mature story that could rival even movies in terms of writing and cinematic direction. And it's a large, interlocking, and pretty damn convoluted story that requires playing all this game's DLC to fully make sense of. So today, I'd like to take a look at this now modern classic story and its gameplay features, to see how they hold up in the year before its grandson is born. And I'm also doing this for myself, to fully experience this game's story, because the last time I played this game, I was a shit-headed middle schooler playing it on my Xbox 360, after I had sneakily downloaded it off the Xbox Marketplace without my parents knowing. And back then, I wasn't really too interested in this gloomy Serbian dude's revenge story, and I was more interested in seeing how far Nico's body could fly out the windshield after I barreled down the streets of Algonquin and getting into a heads-on collision, and sieging the hospital and the poor NPCs in there like it's Fallujah or something, and using cheat codes to cause endless chaos on the streets of Liberty City. So today, let's take a look at Grand Theft Auto 4 with some wiser eyes. And when I launched the game, we first got to get past this borderline malware known as the Rockstar Games Launcher, and we boot the game up, and first off, let's talk about the game's performance and its bugs. Now, Grand Theft Auto 4 is a 2008 game that was primarily developed for the PS3 and Xbox 360, and the game was developed with those consoles' capped frame rates of 30 FPS in mind. So playing this game on my 2024 made PC with an RTX 3070 Super inside of it that runs the game at 144 FPS at 2K resolution, this has led to a few unforeseen consequences, especially with the game's advanced physics. Generally speaking, most of the time, the game runs and looks just fine, but I ran into several minor bugs and glitches that seem to have been caused by the high frame rate. Characters constantly stumble over game geometry while walking around, and they get stuck in a seemingly endless loop, where they hit this animation that looks like they're getting shot in the chest with an invisible shotgun, which can completely fry their AI, as they get stuck in a loop of recoiling from invisible buckshot blasts, as they slowly walk into game geometry over and over again. And when watching cutscenes, some of the shots seem zoomed in way too far, like these character models are barely in frame, if they're even in frame at all.
Well, your crap ain't gonna do me no favors.
Be careful. See you later.
And I ran into this very odd cutscene glitch, where the camera would zoom in endlessly, until it was zoomed in all the way down to the damn pixels, which then completely locked the game up, and forced me to restart my PC just to get control of my mouse back. Having VSync turned off seems to have fixed this zoom in bug problem from occurring mostly, but turning off VSync also causes the game to run way too fast at times, especially when you're inside building interiors, as Nico suddenly moves twice as fast as usual, since the interior frame rates are just so high. And so that forced me to keep VSync on, so it didn't seem like Nico was huffing Fallout Jet when he was inside. And of course, I ran into crashed desktops and other random nonsense, like the audio just completely cutting out during a mission,
Here come the police!
infinite loading screens, flickering textures and lights, and this. It's not ideal, and unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the GTA 4 PC modding scene like at all. So I don't know if there's any sort of reliable patch or frame rate fix for my problems. But I mostly chalked it up to these issues being the cost of doing business when playing console-ported PC games made before 2010. And the fact that the physics working properly or not seems to be directly tied to the maximum frame rate. So keep an eye out if you want to play this game on PC, and make sure to cap the frame rate to 60 FPS at most. But anyway, with all that out of the way, let's jump right into the story of Grand Theft Auto 4. And Grand Theft Auto 4 opens with some freak in his underwear getting whipped by a dominatrix. 3 seconds in, and Rockstar is already up to their usual shit. But kinky cargo tanker sex isn't what we're here for. We're here for this man, a Mr. Niko Bellic, our glorious protagonist. Niko is a man of Serbian descent and is a veteran of the Yugoslav wars, which made him no stranger to killing, cruelty, and grotesque violence, making him one of the most interesting and unique GTA protagonists in terms of backstory and status, who usually are career or former career bank robbers or street criminals. And Mike Hollick does a great job voicing Niko. Like many other Rockstar games, the voice performances here are all excellent, and I don't think there's a single miss in the entire cast. Those voice acting directors in the Rockstar studios must be gods or something. It really seems like all their games have fantastic voice acting without fail. Niko is a passenger on the Platypus, a cargo ship that also runs some illegal smuggling operations, smuggling diamonds and bricks of some heroin, which are all headed for Liberty City, the GTA universe's New York City, the shining gates to the land of freedom and opportunity. Allegedly. Niko had been working for some thugs back in the Balkans, running smuggling operations following the war. But after a smuggling job had gone bad, Niko decided to leave his life in Eastern Europe behind and head to America to go live with his cousin, a man named Roman Bellic, who had already moved to Liberty City years ago, and told Niko via emails and letters to him and his mother that he was now a rich playboy in America, cracking broads and popping bottles in his luxury mansion on the daily, all funded by his wildly successful American business ventures. The Platypus then sails into Liberty City with one of the greatest video game OSTs ever playing in the background. The Soviet Connection was, and still is, a banger.
Yo, yo, yo! Ah!
Niko then gets off the boat, and we don't see Roman at first, until he comes barreling down the road, drunk driving in a cab car, who then jumps out and is so excited to see Niko that he can't help but down some hard liquor and yell at some nearby dock workers.
Buddy!
You're in the goddamn
And Niko wasn't very pleased with his cousin acting like a complete drunken oaf, barely a minute after he's arrived. And they load up the car, and unlicensed to drive cars in America, Niko Bellic has to drive now, because Roman is too drunk. And here's where we get our first taste of driving. And man, I forgot how slow these cars turn. After playing Grand Theft Auto 5 for the last decade or so, with those sleek-ass driving mechanics that feel tighter than femcil pussy, GTA 4 can feel like you're driving a 6,000-pound boulder on 4 wheels in comparison. Now as a kid, I found these cars to be annoyingly clunky to drive, constantly smashing into shit or losing traction and spinning out while taking turns, and the brakes taking way too long to completely stop the car, which led to even more crashes. But while playing GTA 4 now, I actually really dig these driving mechanics this time around, and I realized that the controls aren't clunky, they're just weighty. Each car has an extremely realistic sense of weight, inertia, momentum, and even traction, which if lost, will cause you to spin out and completely wreck your shit, which all comes from GTA 4's still extremely impressive physics system that for a 2008 game still looks and feels really advanced, and it still holds up incredibly well to this day. It's barely aged since 2008. And I played a round of Fortnite while making this video, and the driving physics in that game versus the driving in GTA 4 is just, I don't know. Let me hold up the sign. Yeah. It made me feel like I was driving an RC car after getting used to that fully physics simulated GTA 4 driving. And this game's driving is 12 whole years older. In fact, besides, you know, the GTA squeakle to this one, outside of any other racing games that I haven't played yet, I believe GTA 4 still has the most true-to-life, weighty feeling driving I've ever seen in a game. Hell, GTA 5 even dialed back the car physics for a more streamlined and arcadey-style driving experience. But not only is the driving realistic, it's also just pretty fun to do. It's Grand Theft Auto we're talking about here. You spend probably well more than half of the game's playtime just driving from place to place. So the last thing you'd want is for the driving mechanics to be boring. And since this world is supposed to be based on New York City, and I don't know if any of you out there watching this have ever driven a car through New York, but those who know that you don't go very fast. And the streets are completely clogged with cars, cabs, and on-foot commuters like a clotted artery on the verge of a heart attack. So being able to rip down a straight road at top speed is a somewhat rare occurrence, and even when you're going across a long bridge or a similarly long road. The roads are always clogged with cars, with shitty drivers inside who all have minds of their own as they change lanes, cross the street, and turn across intersections as you barrel across those red lights. And when you're going fast, it becomes a real challenge to dodge all these moving obstacles and future traffic statistics without crashing, and to also not accidentally ram a cop car and then have to stop what you were doing to escape from the fuzz. And for most of the driving time, you're navigating car-filled, short straightaway streets with sharp turns in any which direction. And this makes it a decent challenge to not completely wreck your car or commit 7 vehicular felonies just trying to get around. And it'll definitely take you a little while to get used to how the cars feel and their weight and maneuverability. And you'll be driving like a legless student driver early on, but your skills and feel for the driving will improve over time, and soon, you'll be weaving through traffic and bending them corners like a degenerate kickstreamer. And there's also a handbrake that you can use by holding space to make your car perform huge drift turns, like we're racing down Mount Akina or something. But for my playthrough, the handbrake was highly situational. I found it incredibly hard not to just spin out trying to do a handbrake turn, and even the lightest spacebar tap will twist you damn near 90 degrees around. And if you don't fly into a tailspin, you still have to hope that you weren't going too fast and are now uncontrollably sliding towards a parallel wall or another car. And it's nice to pull off when you do hit that drift just right, but it was far too inconsistent and situational to be truly useful. But once I got a bit more used to the driving, it became a pretty fun challenge to try and weave through traffic at the highest speed possible while damaging the car as little as I could. And trying to race to the next objective as quickly and painlessly for Nico as possible was never not enjoyable or engaging. And each different type of car feels pretty unique to drive, with their various top speeds and weights to get used to, and sometimes you'll want to drive a smaller sports car that can absolutely zoom, and other times you can hop into a large van or a truck and smash other cars off the road with ease, thanks to this game's excellent physics engine. And we can also ride on motorcycles as well, which work about the same as cars, with some mechanics to shift your weight forward or backwards on the bike, to speed forward or pop wheelies. And the much smaller physical bike sizes make it way easier to weave through traffic while on 2 wheels. But be careful, when going at top speeds on bikes, even the smallest collision will get Nico spontaneously recruited into the Liberty City space program. But this is only when you're playing the game at a capped 60 FPS, because driving a motorcycle at 144 FPS in this game feels like trying to ride a ripstick on an ice rink, because any turn that's slightly more than half-assed causes the motorcycle's back wheel to just swing out and flip you 180 degrees around, making motorcycle turning a real pain in the ass when you're constantly fishtailing out just trying to get on another road. So that's another factor that'll force you to cap the game at 60 FPS or lower, or else the game starts breaking down at the subatomic level and the in-game laws of physics and gravity start to become warped and unpredictable. But regardless, car physics are just all around pretty fun to play with once you get comfortable with them, and there's a genuinely impressive amount of big and subtle details to it. Getting into heads-on collisions can make Nico, or the other driver of the car you just totaled, fly through the windshield and tumble across the pavement. You can kill other drivers by smashing into their cars hard enough, and you'll know that you just added another traffic statistic when the car you hit's horn is blaring, as the driver's head is slumped over on the steering wheel. The hoods of these cars were secured with Cybertruck glue or something, and they pop off and fly off these cars constantly, from even the mildest damage to the front. But you can slam on the brakes to slam the hood back down into place. And while it's no BeamNG drive, the physical damage to the cars themselves are still very detailed and robust in how they crumple and react with damage, especially for a 2008 Xbox 360 era game. There's so much detail to the car damage. Anything from paint scratches when grinding against a wall or another car, the glass on your headlight covers smashing to bits and going out when hit, to how your loose bumper smoothly bobs with your car's movements after you made one side of it fall off and hang loose, after you slammed into a hot dog stand and mounted the hot dog seller with your car. If you shoot out a car's tires, you'll see the car physically sag down from where the deflated wheel was shot, and there's an extremely realistic sense of traction while driving, which you can lose by trying to turn too hard while driving too fast, or when driving over dirt or wet rainy roads. Or if enemies shoot your tires out, it becomes way easier to lose traction and spin out from losing 25% of your car's rubber. And losing traction will force you to fight to regain control of your vehicle, all the while your car leaves rubber skid marks from its uncontrolled sliding and swerving. It's impressively robust and realistic feeling, and it makes those violent car chases with cops and criminals feel unpredictable and extremely dynamic. The crashes themselves also feel powerful, with great sound effects and damage. and this damage can even affect how the cars drive. Say you damage the left side of your car a bit too much, and now when you drive forward, the car will now veer slightly to the left, and it's a really great little detail. And of course, it's never not fun to damage your car until it's smoking from the engine, which can actually even disable the car if you give it too much punishment.
Start, you turd, start!
Or, your car may eventually catch on fire from the damage, where you can then drive really fast down a straightaway and then jump out as the car barrels on, where it'll then explode on contact with whatever it runs into next. And it's just really fun to fuck around and waste time speeding, blowing up, and smashing cars in this massive sandbox. You can easily make a 10-car pileup who all explode in a massive chain reaction, as once these cars catch fire, and these cars are extremely flammable too, they go boom pretty shortly afterwards. It was super fun on Xbox 360 in the early 2010s, and it's still just as fun for me now as a 26-year-old senior citizen. And last but not least, the cars have plenty of radio stations to listen to, where I get some of the best nostalgia from that late 2000s era. Just listening to Love Lockdown on the Beat 102.7 while Funkmaster Flex rants about keeping the young ones away from some dude, it just takes me right back to those early 2010 Xbox 360 days. It's glorious.
We're gonna keep our children away from you, my brother, alright? Stop touching the little ones.
And there's a ton of really solid radio stations to listen to, too. Anything from rock, hip-hop, Latin, Eastern European, reggae, electronic, parody talk and news radio, and more. There's never not something to listen to. And you can even hear about in-game events and the effects of your missions by listening to the news radio. And it really makes the world feel lived in and reactive to your actions. But anyway, back to the story. Nico then drives Roman back to his mansion, and we soon find Roman's swag-ass American life has been greatly exaggerated.
This is the mansion?
His quote-unquote mansion is actually a shitty, run-down, piss-stained apartment that only Asmongold would be comfortable in, which is located in a poor Eastern European immigrant neighborhood called Hove Beach, with only roaches and titty posters to keep Roman company. And instead of being some kind of rich businessman and playboy, Roman is in massive amounts of debt, is a degenerate gambler and sex addict, drives a cab for a living, and is humiliated and beat up constantly by his fat Russian loan shark named Vlad, and some other Albanian thugs that he owes money to. And Nico isn't real happy to see the reality of Roman's life.
Screw you, you idiot!
America isn't exactly what was promised so far. But Roman, ever the optimist, says that now that Nico is here, the cousins Bellic can finally build their American dreams together. And Roman also questions Nico as to why he came to Liberty City now of all times, after running around in Europe doing dog knows what for years. Nico doesn't want to say why he decided to come just yet, but he then reminds Roman of the war, and how it affected their lives. But Roman finds this brooding conversation about the past boring as shit.
War is where the young and stupid are tricked by the old and bitter into killing each other. Roman? Roman! Are you sleeping, you fat fuck? Come on!
But then Roman leaves, as he has to return the cab that he borrowed from himself back to his own garage, and he tells Nico to meet him there later to lend him a hand. And from here, we're let loose into the open world and get introduced to player homes, where you can save at your bed and change outfits, and you can't save from the menu. The game only autosaves after completing missions too, so we gotta do it the old-fashioned way by physically traveling to the save point, like your grandpa used to do back in the 40s. And we also get a tutorial on buying food, which is the main way to heal yourself outside of resting in your bed and saving, calling paramedics to help you. One time I even regenerated Nico's health by donating $10 to a saxophone player on the streets. I guess Nico was nourished by his own generosity or something. Or finding first aid kits. But you usually only find those in story missions, so if you're low on your non-regenerating health, simply bite into a succulent glizzy, and your wounds will seal up like Wolverine. And your health in this game is a resource that you have to manage, as unless you want to constantly restart missions, going into one at low health is a terrible idea, and don't rely on trying to find heal kits to get by. They're less common than you'd think. And sure, this makes healing more tedious and way more time consuming, but it also rewards the player for taking the time and spending the money to prepare for their jobs. And later on, you can buy some body armor to instantly double your health pool. And fully preparing like this will take some missions from annoying to very manageable. And you'll want to be fully prepared most of the time, as some of these gunfights will be harder and longer than you might think. And of course, you heal up if you die and respawn at a hospital, but those hospital fees are highway robbery, so you'll want to avoid dying in almost all cases, just like in real life. But now, we're finally free to explore the map. Well, at least the Dukes, Broker, and Bohan parts of the map, which are the game's versions of Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx, respectively, and access to Algonquin, the game's version of Manhattan, and Alderney, the in-game version of New Jersey/Jersey City, are all currently blocked, as apparently some unseen terrorists have been up to some explosive shit cannery, and you can only unlock the other parts of the map by progressing the main story. And until then, the bridges to Algonquin and Alderney are all blocked by LCPD cops, who will relentlessly pursue you until you're a holy corpse if you try to cross over. But besides that, we're finally cut loose into the open world, and we get our first taste of liberty. And since this is a 2008 game, the graphics are obviously pretty dated. The game's lighting and color palette can make it look very muted and washed out at times, making the city look borderline like Silent Hill when it's raining out, where the only color that stands out is the yellow of the city taxis, and the rest of it is a gray blob. And there's also a pretty gnarly amount of texture and model pop-in when driving or flying around. And I was constantly seeing buildings snap into more detail, and cars and NPCs materialize into existence ahead of me as I sped down these roads. And when flying helicopters throughout the city, and especially over Middle Park or near the edges of the vast Grand Theft Auto ocean, the game really looks like some visual diarrhea with all the pop-in, washed out distant graphics, and the honestly pretty awful texture flickering. This 2008 era Rage engine is hanging on for dear life. But I can also easily forgive these dated graphics. We gotta remember that this game is 17 damn years old by now, and GTA 4 is notoriously booty on PC. And also, Liberty City really does capture the vibe of New York City incredibly well. Each borough feels like an extremely accurate, but condensed version of their real-life counterparts, and there's a great sense of verticality and scale to the size of these buildings. Seeing those towering skyscrapers in the distance, and looking at them up close from the ground level really sells you on the New York City feel. And when you're out on the street or driving around, the sights and soundscapes of the city are captured almost perfectly. Anything from the constant honks and siren bleeps from the cars you drive past, to the humming of the car engines, the ridiculous chatter and yelling from people on the sidewalks, to the soft whistling of the car brakes. The audio design is some really great shit, and it perfectly captures the sound and general vibe of the city and each of its boroughs incredibly well. And all these factors give the whole city a sort of opulent and inspiring, yet at the same time a very dour and hopeless vibe, which is much like the real life city if you've ever been there. Even a whole 17 years later, GTA 4 is still one of the greatest recreations of New York City ever put to code. But since we're stuck in the broker/duke/bohan areas, and we have no money, guns, friends, swag, motion, or any other prospects, Nico heads to Roman's cab company to see what he's got for us, and we meet Roman and one of his employees, who's a Puerto Rican woman named Mallory Bardis, who is his girlfriend, I think? Maybe his side hoe? His fuck buddy? I don't know. It's nuanced, I guess. Roman seems to genuinely like her, but he cheats on her constantly with hookers and other random women, and she cheats on him as well, so it's even. And we also meet his loan shark, the Russian mobster Vlad Glebov, who completely cucks Roman any chance he gets. He walks around his cab depot like he owns the place, he hits on Mallory, and reminds Roman that he's his little debt slave.
No, I'm a fat prick. What can I do?
Pay you debts?
I will do, man. We spoke of this.
And he also rages at Nico for staring at him, calling him an immigrant yokel any chance he gets.
Tell this fucking yokel here.
Yokel, fetty Romanskaza. Hey, yokel, you managed to do the job?
What a stupid yokel you are when you open your mouth.
Ah, yokel, there you are. Okay, fresh off the boat. Yokel, ass is mine. Come on, yokel. No, yokel.
Maybe your whole yokel family drives around in a dirty car.
You know, for a damn yokel, you're a very funny guy.
But after being reminded that Roman owes Vlad money, Roman has Nico chauffeur him to an illegal card game to hopefully win some more money to pay Vlad off. And sure, gambling is how Roman got himself in this situation in the first place, but the janitor always cleans up. He's got this.
Why me? They call me the janitor.
Because you can't pay your debts and they make you mop the floor? Never what?
And the janitor also gives us a cell phone, so we can call him and warn him if some Albanian loan sharks he also owes money to show up to beat his ass, which they do. So we call Roman and flee from the Albanians after he loses even more money on cards. And the cell phone is so nostalgic for me too. It's one of those old school ones. And I believe Nico's phone is specifically based on a Sony Ericsson. You know the ones that still have those physical keyboards on them. Until the iPhone came out, it forced everything to become screen. And the mobile phone industry suffered a mass extinction event of all keyboarded phones. The phone is very useful, and we can use our phone to call our friends and request services from them, check text messages, input cheat codes, take pictures later on when we get a nicer phone, and restart missions if we fail them, where you'll have to accept a mission text to restart the mission from pretty much the beginning, instead of just restarting from an in-mission checkpoint, which makes failing a mission a huge pain in the ass, as you'll likely have to repeat the whole drive over to the actual mission again, which is a great waste of my time. But at least during the new drive, you're also likely to get some alternate mission dialogue from the characters, so it isn't a complete waste of time. But anyway, Back at Roman's office, it seems that those Albanians caught up to him, and they start breaking his shit and threatening him with a switchblade. But Nico steps in and uses his CQC powers he learned from his time in the military to beat up the thugs and send them running. Roman then tells Nico to go pick up Mallory and her friend Michelle, who starts coming on to Nico real fast. Kinda suspiciously fast. I mean, she literally just sat down in the car with him, and she's already talking about how she wants to see him again. His Balkan aura can't be that powerful, right?
On, you guys. You're both single. You're adults. Take a number, Nico.
Hey, I'd like to see you again, Nico. You look like that kind of guy I want to get to know.
You look like you just jumped off the boat, Nico.
And Mallory encourages the two to go on a date, which Nico carefully agrees to. But before we can go on a date with Michelle, Roman calls, and guess what? He's getting attacked by Albanians again. So we have to find him and save him by beating up the loan sharks and throwing their leader Darden out of a window.
You shouldn't play with sharp objects, Darden.
And the melee combat here is surprisingly robust. It's still fairly slow and clunky to perform, but you can punch, alternate punch, and kick like any good martial artist. And enemies will physics push you away if you get too close, leaving you stumbling and open to a hit. But you can also dodge and counter by pressing space at the right time, which will make Nico duck or lean out of the way. You can then even disarm and counterattack your opponent with their weapon. But outside of this story-forced fistfight, I barely use the melee. I mean, this is GTA we're talking about. The drive and shoot game. And you want to throw hands? Come on, man. But with Roman rescued from the Albanians, we can finally take Michelle on a date. So I impress Michelle by buying a shitty pair of Russian import jeans for 24 bucks, and I pick her up from her apartment. But her apartment only makes her seem more off, as all her furniture is brand new. Some of the items still having the store tags on them, which Michelle just hand waves away as her being a quote-unquote clean freak. And she just buys new furniture when she thinks it's dirty.
All your stuff is new. Some even still have tags on.
Yeah, well, I like things clean. Things get on my nerves and I just throw them out. OCD or something?
It's like, alright. Interesting, Mrs. I light my money on fire to buy couches. And she reveals very little about herself in conversation with Nico, and she acts pretty obtuse when questioned, much to Nico's frustrations.
Oh, I guess I'm married to my job.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Come on, I asked first.
In this mission is our tutorial for the dating and friend systems, which is a major part of this game's side content. And this is where all those cousin, let's go bowling calls come from. As you progress the story, you'll meet NPCs and become friends with some of them, or you can find potential dating partners online, which will allow you, or them, to call you up and ask to hang out or go on a date, and do any of the myriad side activities across Liberty City, like playing bowling, pool, darts, going to bars, shows, getting food from Cluck and Bell or Burger Shot, or going to the strip club. In doing so, will increase your fondness percentage with your friend. Male friends like to do pretty much anything with Nico, while any potential girlfriends need to be impressed in 3 different categories for the date to be successful: clothes, car, and how much they actually like the date location, as each potential huzz has their own favorite clothes, types of car, and places to go. And increasing your fondness with your friends will allow you to unlock favors from them if they like you enough, like being able to buy weapons from them, get discounts, plant bombs, get a cab service, or if you're dating them, maybe some tail. And it provides a meaningful way to interact with the game's side content by strengthening your friendships and unlocking small but solid bonuses from them, and to provide some more immersion to the game's world, as well as getting some deeper, more interesting dialogue with said characters. But I also didn't do it very often, as you have to accept the link up, drive to pick up your friend, drive to the activity, do the activity, and then drive all the way back to drop them off, which isn't the most riveting stuff in the world, but it's still pretty nice to do every once in a while. But if you go out drinking, don't even attempt to drive after getting drunk. The car gets possessed by the spirit of McSkillet and tries to strongly veer off the road every 3 seconds. And you have to actively wrestle with the game to maintain even the slightest amount of control. And cops will chase after you if they spot you drunk driving. And good luck trying to get away. It's torture. But anyway, I blow past this boring tutorial and get Michelle back home. And we return to the office to find Vlad macking on Mallory. And Roman walks in.
Hey, Mallory. Hey, man!
And he tells Vlad about how Nico whooped the shit out of Darden and his goons, which actually piques Vlad's interest, as he could use a capable thug like Nico. But for now, Roman sends us to pick up a customer of his, some guy named Jermaine, But this isn't just a cab ride. We're taking him to a stolen auto parts deal, and the Fuzz are waiting for Jermaine when he arrives, which puts a 1-star wanted level on us, which formally introduces us to the wanted level and police pursuit systems. Although you've likely been chased by the cops at least once by this point, just from faffing about in the game, this mission is here to make sure you know what to do. And I think everyone's pretty familiar with the Grand Theft Auto wanted system. I mean, it's so famous, there's literal songs named after it. And that's because it's simple, fun, and incredibly effective. Your wanted level is on a classic GTA scale from 1 to 6 stars, which increases based on how much crime you commit and how long you're pursued for. Each wanted level significantly increasing the search area size and the amount of cops who spawn in to try to obliterate Nico's buns. You get a 1-star wanted level by doing some relatively petty crime by Grand Theft Auto standards. Carjacking when a cop is nearby, crashing into cop cars, which is a constant threat you have to avoid while speeding through the city, running people over, aiming your weapons at people, or letting your gun go off in crowded areas. Those will all usually get you a single star, where the cops will chase you, but they won't fire on you, and they give up the chase pretty fast. You get 2 stars by upping the violence level, shooting at civilians in view of police, blowing up non-police cars, and resisting a 1-star arrest for a little while without actually fully escaping the pursuit. Shooting or killing cops will give you an instant 3-star wanted level, where you start seeing helicopters getting deployed to follow you from the sky, making it a lot harder to escape, and larger police jeeps start chasing you too. And at 4 stars, Noose, the GTA version of SWAT essentially, start pulling up to light your ass up in their armored trucks. And Noose guys wear body armor that gives them double the usual cop health pool, and have more advanced weapons like the MP5 SMG, as compared to the regular cop pistols and pump shotguns. And if you keep fighting and resisting arrest, you'll get a 5-star wanted level, where Noose attacks more relentlessly, cops even become more aggressive and try to run you off the road constantly, and Noose attack helicopters show up to rain death on you. And 6 stars? It's practically a death sentence. Cops and Noose heavily swarm the map, on land, air, and sea, and the search area is now gigantic, about the size of an entire city island, with new cops spawning in endlessly to reset the search zone. And it's almost impossible to actually escape from without a boat or helicopter of some kind, as all the bridges are barricaded and cops will appear everywhere like an ant infestation in my kitchen. But to escape the cops and lose your wanted level, it's very simple. You just have to drive out of the flashing blue and red search circle and hide to the best of your ability, being careful to not let any other searching police cruisers that spawn in spot you. And after about 15 or 30 seconds without being spotted, the cops will give up on the chase, and then you'll be able to go back to whatever it is you were doing. And it's always been a little silly to me that you could jack 2 cars, kill 3 cops and 7 civilians in a car chase, and then hide for less than a minute, and the cops will just give up and completely forget what just happened. But it's just the nature of the GTA world, and it's essential for a fun and well-paced car stealing experience, and it's pretty great shit. You could easily burn hours and hours in this game, just trying to see how long you can last against the cops in Noose, and the chaotic car physics can allow for all kinds of wacky shit to happen during a high-speed chase. And it's just really fun to get into some legal trouble, and it's still the same arcade-style fun and endless action that this series was built on. But the only downside is that the military won't come after you anymore, so Nico can't square up to literal tanks rolling down the street to obliterate him, which would have been cool to see. But at least there's an APC in the DLC. But anyway, once we dodge the cops and drop off Jermaine, Roman sends us on another job to pick up another one of his clients, a Jamaican fella named Little Jacob, a member of the Jamaican gang called the Yardies, and we're to drive Little Jacob here to a drug deal. And Nico somehow mostly understands Jacob's extremely thick patois, which is insanely impressive for a fresh off the boat English as a second language Serbian. He must have been grinding that Rosetta Stone kid on the platypus.
Gotta help Roman take over the world and think.
I guess so.
Respect, alright.
Jacob also hands Nico his first gun and asks him to provide cover for him in case this deal goes bad. And sure enough, like most deals attempted in the GTA universe, it goes sideways pretty much immediately, and the thugs Jacob meets immediately open fire on him. So we back up our boy, and we get introduced to the shooting mechanics. And shooting in Grand Theft Auto 4 is incredibly simple. Just aim the target circle and fire, and hold the mouse button to continuously fire semi-automatic weapons. Now there's 2 ways to aim, lock-on and free aim mode. And the lock-on is here to make shooting easier on consoles, but it seems that the community consensus on the lock-on is that it's shit from a butt. So I'll play exclusively on free aim, and for the first time in a Grand Theft Auto game, we have a cover system for realistic tactical shooting and peeking simulation. And to take cover, you know the drill. Press Q to make Nico stick to a wall, and hold right click to peek aim, and hold left click to fire. But Grand Theft Auto 4 has some odd nuances to this mechanic, as you need to hold down left click continuously to fire semi-automatic weapons like pistols, as Nico will only fully pop out of cover when both left and right click are held down. There's no dedicated pop out of cover and aim button, and holding right click just makes Nico poke his head out from around the corner he's currently attached to, so you can aim at a target before fully exposing yourself. And just clicking left click once doesn't give Nico enough time to fire. But besides that, the cover system is just fine for this game. It's slow, archaic, unresponsive, and clunky as shit compared to the much more fluid and tightened up cover mechanics of Grand Theft Auto 5 and beyond. And it's definitely showing its age here. But this was also the first Grand Theft Auto game to really have a robust cover system like this, where you can take cover and move around while staying in cover. So I can't really shit on it too much. It's kind of like shitting on a Model T for not having a rear view camera and not being able to go 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. And it gets the job done here well enough, flaws and all. And you can also blind fire around cover by just holding left click, which is really great for spraying down close enemies without having to expose Nico's soft pink underbelly to incoming bullets. And it's a pretty safe and powerful tool to use. But enemies fucking love to use the blind fire as well. And many gunfights were just me trying to shoot a few pixels of exposed elbow or wrist of an enemy who's spraying an Uzi over the top of a large box or from around a corner. And they'll just camp out in their cover and blind fire you until you either shoot their weenus off or push them yourself and flank them to flush them out. Some enemies seemingly never daring to peek out of their cover. They must know that Nico is like the broker Grim Reaper, and they're just shaking in their boots, pissing their pants in fear. But besides all that, the shooting works just fine and gets the job done well enough. And the more interesting and impressive parts of the shooting actually come from its details and physics interactions. And the sound design here is also really, really solid. All the guns sound super powerful. They made sure that these shits bark. Guns like the assault rifles, shotguns, and even the pistols got a nice thump and boom to each shot. You can almost feel the reverberations. Although disappointingly, the guns don't have full reload animations. The magazines don't get swapped out or anything, which kind of makes it look like Nico just has to tickle his gun to magically refill it with bullets. And the game's physics makes shooting enemies extremely satisfying, as they stumble and react to bullets pretty realistically, with incredibly fluid and realistic animations, which is thanks to Grand Theft Auto 4's Euphoria procedural animation system that still holds up incredibly well to this day. Because when shot, NPCs will stumble back from the impact force of the bullets, trying to keep their balance as you unload into them, reacting to each shot with fluid as fuck procedural animations. And oftentimes, they'll fire their gun off in wild directions as they react to getting shot. And if an enemy is shot while on a ledge, their bodies will be compelled to stumble off the ledge and fall to their deaths, which is a lot of fun to watch when it happens. You can even push bodies around by continuing to shoot them. And no two NPCs truly died the exact same way. And it really makes the nowadays very run-of-the-mill shooting mechanics of GTA 4 feel much more interesting and lifelike. If you land a headshot, it's pretty much always lethal, and enemies will just crumple over if shot in the dome. Or if you injure them, you can see how much health an enemy has by looking at this inner circle health halo. And when only one segment remains, they may fall over and curl up on the brink of death, or they may try to get up and flee, holding their stomachs to stop the leaking, I guess. And there's again an impressive amount of realistic animations and reactions to getting shot that these NPCs can show off, and it gives the shooting a very satisfying rawness to it. It's just a lot of fun to blast these ragdolls around, man. But we kill these dealers, and we save Jacob, who lets us keep the pistol, on account of our expert marksmanship. And once we drop him off, we get called up by that hog, Vlad, who recruits Nico as some premium thug muscle to help take care of some business for him. So to help Vlad out, we intimidate an Asian store owner into paying him protection money, chase after and intimidate a laundromat owner, and steal a car for Vlad after learning how to take the subway, the game's version of fast travel alongside hailing and getting rides in taxis, that I literally only used once during this tutorial, as driving was a much more fun and engaging way to travel, instead of going to the subway station and then taking a teleporting train. And we also helped Jacob out with another drug deal, squishing some drug dealers with our car who try to run off on him. And we then shoot up a house full of drug dealers who set us up in the previous mission, on the orders of Jacob's Yardy boss, a guy known only as Real Badman, who kind of sounds like the main antagonist of a modern Hideo Kojima game. So we blast the dealers and get used to the cover system I mentioned earlier, and we bring Jacob back and take one last mission from Vlad. So we meet Vlad at the bar, Nico ordering himself a glass of water, and this is because he's pretty much wholly abstinent from alcohol and drugs for the entire story. He'll always refuse booze or drugs from other story NPCs, which happens pretty often. Or when he actually accepts the alcohol, you'll notice that he actually never gets a chance to drink it. And I'm not sure if it's a running joke or not, but responsible and professional Nico, man. So inspiring. Vlad commands Nico to kill a guy named Ivan for him, as apparently, Ivan had pissed off his boss, this Russian mobster big boss named Mikhail Faustin. And Vlad says that Faustin will get pissed at Nico directly if he doesn't kill Ivan.
And you're the little punk whose only friends is some fat weasel who drives the fucking cab!
So we chase after Ivan in a car, and don't bother trying to run him off the road. He'll always be slightly too fast for you to catch. You can literally see his car magically accelerate if you get too close. The game decides when the pursuit ends here, so just stay on his tail and wait until he crashes and escapes on foot into a construction site, where we have a cinematic-ass chase scene over some rooftops. And jumping is Nico at his most uncontrollable. The advanced physics and animations make Nico a tad slow and clunky feeling to control, and when you do a jump, Nico literally launches himself forward. And when he lands, he needs some runway space to either do a tumble roll or to slow down his forward momentum. And if you jump at a bad angle, you may accidentally throw yourself off the side of a building. But we hopped from building to building until that damn fool Ivan falls off a catwalk, and he finds himself at Nico's mercy. And we can actually make a choice here to either let Ivan fall or help pull him back up. And since Vlad is a prick, I decide to save Ivan, who profusely thanks Nico, and he runs off. Our good deed done for the day. In saving Ivan, we'll let you find him later for a short side quest as well. So we call up Vlad to tell him that Ivan won't be a problem anymore. This then prompts Vlad to launch into an unprompted tangent about fucking married women, and brings up Mallory specifically, which instantly pisses off Nico, essentially confirming his suspicion that Vlad is cucking his cousin.
I tell you, it's so much better if women already have a man, because you don't have to deal with all this shit all day. Take Mallory, for example.
Fuck you! You say this to my face and I will break you!
And speaking of cousins, we then meet Roman back at the cab depot, who's drinking by himself, all in his feelings about Mallory. And Roman suspects that Mallory is sleeping with Vlad. I mean, the dude was stroking her chin at the office. That's essentially raw dog fucking right there. And Nico confirms his suspicions, which pisses off Roman, upset at Nico for not telling him.
You're an asshole, Nico Bellic!
Which in turn pisses off Nico, who upon realizing that Roman actually does love Mallory in his own fucked up way, makes a snap decision to go take care of this Vlad problem here and now. So we confront Vlad at the bar, and we kill his goons, and chase after him in Roman's cab, until Vlad crashes his whip near the water. Vlad threatening that his boss Faustin will come for the Bellic boys if we off him here and now. But Nico ain't afraid of Russian thugs, and we blast that roach Vlad right in the melon with a custom kill animation.
You were the stupid one, Vladdy boy.
We're dead!
No, he's dead. We're fine.
And despite Nico offing his loan shark and cuckerer, Roman starts freaking out after seeing Vlad's body, worried his Russian bosses will soon show up to rip Roman's sphincter out of his anus, and to kill Nico for this brazen assassination of one of their enforcers. And realizing that shit is looking dire for the cousins, and they may be sprayed down in a hail of AK-47 bullets real soon, Nico then decides now's a good time to open up to Roman and reveal why he truly came to Liberty City. Nico tells Roman that during the war, he and a squad of 15 men, who were mostly friends from his home village that he grew up with, all went on a mission to ambush another squad. However, the ambushers became the ambushees, as one of Nico's squad mates had sold them out for cash, and 12 of his 15 squad mates died as a result. And Nico knows that he didn't betray his men, so he's been spending the last decade hunting down the last 2 surviving members of his squad to find out who had betrayed them and learn why they did it. This drive for revenge and answers being the main thing keeping Nico going after the war ended.
12 people died, 3 escaped. I know the traitor was not me. So for 10 years, I've been searching for the other 2. One of them lives here.
Why are you telling me this now? Do you always get sentimental after you kill people?
You kept asking.
Roman isn't very sympathetic to Nico's decades-long revenge quest, and leaves after Vlad's body is dumped into the river, terrified that Russian mobsters may come after him. And sure enough, soon after this, Roman calls Nico to tell him that he's hiding out somewhere in the city, and we find him hiding inside a dumpster, and for good reason, as Nico gets clobbered by an AK-47 wielding Russian goon, who then takes Roman hostage at gunpoint. And the Bellics then wake up in someone's basement, Roman gagged up and Nico getting slapped around by this sharply dressed Russian guy. And Nico then gets slapped around with a hacksaw for some untasteful homophobic remarks.
Okay. You're dead like sit up the ass. What do you want me to say, huh?
But before Nico gets sawed into like a family Christmas tree, the boss himself, Mr. Faustin, comes down the stairs in a rage, saying that all the noise from the basement torture session is irritating his wife. Faustin then asks Nico if he thinks it's okay to kill his employees, and Nico's smartass reply seems to impress Faustin.
If he is an asshole, Yes.
I agree.
And he blasts his employee who captured the Belix right in the head out of nowhere, immediately establishing Faustin as an unstable maniac. Mikhail then reveals that he actually hated Vlad and thought he was an idiot, which is fair, and he just kept him around so he could bang his sister on the side, which is a pretty lucky break for old Nico. But that doesn't mean he's off the hook, as Faustin and his right-hand man here, a guy named Dmitry Raskolov, tell Nico that he works for them now, and they ungag Roman at Nico's request, who then starts uncontrollably hollering in fear. So Faustin shoots him in the gut to shut him up. And he's hurt, but will be okay, as long as Nico does a job for the Russians and steals a shipment of TVs from a van and delivers them to a deal, which we do by stealing a cop car that conveniently parks nearby, so we can use the car's toggleable siren to pull over some vans. And eventually we find the TVs and complete the deal to save Roman. But now Nico is stuck as an indentured servant to this psychotic Russian mobster and his thug weirdo friends. So this probably won't end well. And we then meet with Faustin back at his house, who is drinking vodka shots and doing rails of coke in his living room alone, while Dmitry tries to tell him to lay off the drugs and to get a grip. And it's a pretty good look into their relationship, as we learn Dmitry and Faustin go way back beyond being drug slingers in arms. They had spent time in Russian prison together, and they have matching tattoos to symbolize their brotherhood. And it's clear that Dmitry is highly worried about Faustin's increasingly unstable and violent behavior. And we then help him press a porn studio into paying them tribute.
You should have thought of that earlier.
And we buy an Uzi SMG as part of the gun shop tutorial. And like any good Grand Theft Auto game, there's gun shops available to buy weapons, armor, and ammo. And the gun stores in this game look like illicit backroom shops because of New York's stricter gun control laws, which clearly aren't very effective. And these gun shops are great for re-upping on rifle and RPG ammo, which I seem to be constantly low on. As for the rest of the weapons, I could usually pick up plenty of pistol and SMG ammo off dead enemies, and I never really needed to buy any extra ammo for those guns. And buying body armor will give you a whole extra health bar to protect yourself with, and we can't buy any of the other weapons at this point, as we have to unlock each weapon via story mission first. Well, that's if you don't use cheat codes to give yourself a full arsenal at least. And we at the Owen Kung channel frown on cheating when trying to seriously look at a game's baseline experience. And you won't be unlocking a weapon like an RPG until pretty later on in the story. So in practice, I mostly ignored these gun shops unless I really needed some extra rifle ammo for a mission or some body armor. And also, most weapons have two versions of it. For pistols, it's a Glock and a Desert Eagle. For SMGs, it's an Uzi and an MP5. For rifles, an AK-47 and an AR-15S carbine. Shotguns, there's a pump shotgun and a no pump needed combat shotgun. There's a wooden hunting rifle and a combat rifle for some scoped options, and the RPG has no alternate version, so sadly no grenade launcher or javelin type launcher to upgrade to. Well, at least not in the base game. And even throwables have Molotovs and grenades to choose from, and it's a solidly simple selection, although a tad bit small when compared to the GTA 5 arsenal. Oh, and of course, these better versions need to be unlocked via story missions before you can buy them as well. And we also help out little Jacob some more, and we meet his best friend and his boss, I think, a guy named Real Badman, whose patois is even thicker than Jacob's, and not even advanced Jamaican understander Nico could comprehend a word he's saying, so Jacob has to translate for him. And I just love this cutscene. The voice acting from Batman and Jacob is just so fun to listen to, and I love Nico's reactions too.
Them don't want to give me my money and thing on. Every corner my corner on. I want my money and thing, you know. I no sweat I go in, I want to deal with the case proper. You know, see. The boy them dip on the corner, I say the boy them other things on my corner that and thing on. I say every corner on my corner and thing. I'm gonna write that to the boy them I want to say, oh, they want to give me my money. Oh, something go on with that.
The boy them are some novice, see it? You will find it when you go up on the corner of Alpha and Soap Bohan.
And this game may be dark, but it's also ridiculously funny at times.
Nico, it's your cousin. You want to shoot some pool?
Shit, Roman, I can't talk now. Damn!
And the actual mission is whatever though. We just blast some more drug dealers for the two after a short foot chase for the crime of selling za without Batman approval. And Nico then meets Faustin and Dmitry at Faustin's cabaret club called Perestroika. Dmitry tells Faustin that the feds are breathing down their necks and they need to take it easy on their criminal enterprises for a while to let the heat cool off. But Faustin isn't trying to hear all that lame shit, and he believes that someone ratted them out directly, namely Lenny Petrovic, son of another powerful Russian mobster, some guy named Kenny Petrovic, and he orders Nico to kill him on the spot, much to Dimitri's chagrin, who literally begs Faustin not to off the son of a rival mob boss based on vibes or something. And he questions the validity of Faustin's kill order to his face, as why would a mobster, who's deep in the crime life, and who benefits greatly from it, flip to the feds in the first place? But Faustin stubbornly refuses to listen to any and all warnings and logic from his blood brother Dimitri, and Nico soon locates and ices Lenny P near a subway platform, which Dimitri is very distressed about. But there's no time to worry about Russian goon retribution, as we meet with Roman and his buddy back at his cab depot, a roided up, all gas, no brakes freakazoid named Brucey Kibbutz, a chop shop owner and future shark jizz salesman, who may or may not want that fat boy Roman.
Well, Roman said maybe you needed some help and we need some money real bad.
Shit, my bad. Yeah, of course. Love that guy. Love him. I mean, I am no chubby chaser, but if I was and a queer, that guy would be in trouble, you know what I mean?
Let them know.
Hey, I'm shitting with you. Brucey likes pussy.
And they convince Nico to learn how to use the computer and to get online, so Brucey can send him some jobs to steal some select vehicles later on. And this is our introduction to the internet mechanics of Grand Theft Auto 4. And to use the internet, we just gotta go to the twat internet cafe, and the game's really showing its age here.
Go fuck yourself.
And we use any empty computer to get online, which, gameplay-wise, is mostly here to receive and accept side missions through your email inbox and to find girlfriends online. But there's a lot of extra funny fluff and messages that you can find just by cruising this parody internet. Like how all your spam emails come from yourmexicandoctor.com, the best one-stop shop to buy cheap penis pills online. And there's a little girl's pageant website that's actually a trap for pedos, and you immediately get a 5-star wanted level for visiting the site, plus plenty of other funny shit to find on the GTA World Wide Web. And after that, we head to Faustin's house, who was berating and belittling his wife as usual.
You're a terrible man! You superstitious old crone! I'll see you in hell!
And he rants and raves to Nico about his daughter that he hates, pissed off that she's messing around with some degenerate biker thugs, and not being grateful enough to him.
She's my daughter. Ungrateful bitch.
So he orders Nico to find and kill her biker boyfriend, which we do. We locate her and off her biker bow after chasing him on a motorcycle that I can barely control. Shit! And this mission also introduces us to the shooting while driving mechanics, which are very simple. Just aim and fire out the window, and press Q to cycle through your weapons. And you can only use one-handed guns while driving, like pistols or SMGs, and along with being able to throw grenades out the window, although they're incredibly slow and hard to land. And it's a lot of fun to shoot cars and drivers on the move, and killing a driver and watching his car lose control and swerve off to the side while the horn was blaring was always satisfying to see. And this mission also has huge ramifications for the Lost and Damned DLC, as the biker we offed was a member of the Lost MC, and it ends up contributing to a whole biker gang war later on. But I'll talk about that more in the GTA 4 DLC's video. And anyway, back at Faustin's house, Nico is greeted by his wife, and they have a surprisingly honest conversation with each other, and Nico actually opens up to her, after she tells him about how Faustin didn't used to be such an unstable, murderous drug addict, and we get a much needed look into Nico's own personal philosophies about life, and why he does what he does, and how the war broke his sense of morality, making him feel nothing towards killing and robbing people. And he recounts a story of when he found a group of murdered children in a village that was attacked during the war, determining in that moment that humans have no souls, as nothing with a soul is capable of such unspeakable evil and horror.
After you walk into a village, and you see 50 children, all sitting neatly in a row against the church wall, each with their throats cut and their hands chopped off, you realize that the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul.
God is very complicated. You mustn't give up hope.
Huh. Well, I don't know about that.
It's a really great cutscene that instantly adds so much moral depth and even empathy to Nico's character. But then the moment is ruined when Faustin and Dimitri walk in, and Faustin does what he does best.
Привет,
What is that? I tell you one thing and you ignore me! You stupid bitch!
And he then orders Nico to pick up a truck and drive it to the garage of a man who owes him money, and Faustin conveniently waits until Nico is in the truck to tell him that it's got a huge bomb inside of it.
Sure. What am I delivering?
When it's inside, trigger the explosive. It should blow up good. Maybe you be careful on the drive over. It's pretty volatile stuff.
Explosive? What the fuck?
Which will explode if you crash the truck too much, which makes this drive an interesting challenge, to use the driving skills you've gained so far to deliver the truck without completely barbecuing Nico. But we deliver the truck unscathed, and it explodes, and Faustin has really gone off the deep end now, and Nico isn't very happy that Faustin tricked him into performing an ISIS-style bombing just to get back at a debtor. In the meantime, We also help out Brucey by chasing down a guy and killing him, using a stolen LCPD cruiser's computer to track our target down, which is a pretty big side activity that you can do. You can play vigilante cop by stealing a police cruiser and using its computer to look for and hunt down criminals all over Liberty City, with 30 targets available for you to track down and take care of. And these missions are pretty short, but they add a real solid chunk of side content and let players do some volunteer police work for a nice change of pace. But we soon get a text from Dimitri, who tells us to meet him at the Firefly Island boardwalk. And when we meet him, he's looking tenser than former Rockstar producer Leslie Benzies when those Mind's Eye reviews dropped. Dimitri was only somewhat successful in smoothing things over with Kenny Petrovic's Mafia, and Dimitri says that they want Faustin killed as repayment, and they want Nico to do the hit, as according to Dimitri, they'll spare Nico's life if he kills Faustin himself, and Nico has no choice here, and Dimitri is clearly insanely stressed by signing his old friend's death warrant, and Nico then heads to Perestroika to put down that mad Russian dog. So we bust in and shoot up Faustin's goons in his club in the biggest firefight in the game yet, and we chase Faustin to the roof of the club, where Nico eventually shoots him off the side, and he falls to the sidewalk below, dead. Another employer offed. And after this, we need to wait for a little bit and then call up Dimitri ourselves about payment for the Faustin hit. And Dimitri said, "Oh yes, Nico, I have the money for you. Just come to this sketchy rundown warehouse completely alone, and I promise I will pay you everything. I promise." But luckily, little Jacob's spider senses are tingling about this deal, and he senses a potential ambush, so he comes along with Nico as added security. What a bro. Love you, Jacob. So we confront Dimitri, who's all alone in this huge warehouse, but then he says he has to, quote, check something with Nico, and asks him about his smuggling days in Europe, like I mentioned at the beginning of the story. And suddenly, Ray Bulgarin, Nico's former smuggler boss, appears in the warehouse and accuses Nico of stealing from him, believing that Nico had sabotaged his last job so he could flee to Liberty City with some stolen cash. But Nico denies ever stealing from Bulgarin, saying that he got busted a mile off the coast of Italy, and Nico had to swim to shore just to escape with his life. But Bulgarin ain't buying it, and he orders Nico killed here and now, which triggers a huge gunfight in the warehouse, and Dimitri just played Nico like a fiddle. He made him do his dirty work and killed Faustin for him, and now he's looking to tie up his Nico-sized loose end. But Dimitri and Bulgarin's men are no match for Nico and Jacob, and they massacre all the goons and escape, which our new dreaded op Dimitri is not pleased about at all, as he'll call up Nico a few times later on in the game, to cattily threaten him, and to express his disappointment in Nico not dying from bullet wounds in his carefully prepared ambushes.
Nico Felix, we did not find your body with the others in the warehouse. Mr. Bulgarin and I were very disappointed.
But after that, we drop off Jacob, and we then get a call from Roman, who sounds like he's hiding out in a dumpster again.
Nico, please come and meet me in the alleyway off of Hopper Street in EIC. Quickly, cousin.
Roman, what are you doing? Why are you whispering?
But when we find him, he's actually hiding in the trunk of one of his cabs, not a dumpster, saying that he ran and hid because he was getting suspicious and threatening phone calls that spooked the shit out of him. And Nico says that Dimitri and now Ray Bulgarin both want the Bellics dead, so we gotta pack up and move the hell out of Hove Beach quickly. And luckily, Mallory's cousins have a Bohan apartment Nico and Roman can stay at for free, Mallory coming in insanely clutch here. But as we head to Roman's apartment, we find it's completely engulfed in flames, and so is the cab depot. Roman's entire life is burned to the ground in minutes, which he understandably isn't happy to see.
It took me months to get some cash together. Finally, I bought a cab, and then another. Then I got the depot. I slept under my desk at that place for over a year. Then I got the apartment. The apartment you thought was so shitty.
Lamenting and ranting Nico's ear off about all the hard work he put in, just to get that shitty apartment and cab business going. And now it's all for naught. Wasted and burned.
Come on! Oh. Roman, pull yourself together. You've been here before. Positive, mental, attitude. Come on!
But he also pulls himself together really fast, and quickly goes back to the usual optimistic Roman in no time. And it's honestly kind of inspiring how much mental fortitude this guy can have. No matter how much punishment he takes, Roman never gives in. I guess he's a master of stoicism and going with the flow of life. Mallory then meets the Bellics at their new, somehow even shittier apartment, and she tells Nico to meet her at the community center for some work later on. And Roman goes off to get his life back in order, and Nico heads to meet Mallory at the community center, where she introduces her childhood friend, a guy named Manny Escuela.
Do I look gay?
Who is shooting some kind of promo video, and he yaps about the streets constantly, like he's in a religion that worships the streets instead of some god, and he's insanely dedicated.
See, it's the streets, man. What's up, man? Streets, man. So, streets take no prisoners, right? Gotta get some of these dealers off the streets, man.
Carl, we're gonna clean these streets. These streets is mine, man. Nico Bellic
street justice, bro. I'm all love, kid, for these streets. Be prepared. Street life ain't pretty. Shit, man, I'm the voice of the streets, man. They disrespected the codes of the streets, man. The streets, man. That's what I'm saying, man. Streets, we got codes, man. You know what I'm saying? We live by these codes, you know what I mean?
Manny claims that he wants to clean up these streets as some sort of cosmic debt to them, as apparently he used to be a drug-addicted gangbanger, but has now cleaned up his act, and in turn, wants to clean up the streets, specifically from drugs and those who deal them. So to accomplish this, as anyone would, he hires a Serbian hitman to find and gun down drug dealers like dogs. So Manny and his cameraman can then show the aftermaths and farm clout off Nico's drug dealer slaughter sessions. And it's a bit of a ridiculous scheme, but at least he pays well. And the next time Nico sees Manny, he's shooting a video with LCPD Deputy Commissioner Francis McCreary, who we will see much more later on. But for now, we kill more dealers for Manny, and simultaneously through all of this, Nico also goes along with a harebrained scheme cooked up by Brucey and Roman to have him pose as a gay man online so he can lure in and kill a quote-unquote cockhound who owes Brucey money. Well, at least Brucey says he owes him money. Just don't ask Brucey about how he knows about this dating profile, which obviously works. I mean, Sweet Bella here is irresistible. And Nico also betrays Manny and the streets, as Mallory introduces Nico to a notable Bohan drug dealer, a Puerto Rican woman named Elizabeta Torres, and he starts working for her. Elizabeta hires Nico to do some sniper recon over a sketchy drug deal, where he'll be working alongside a member of the Irish Mafia, a guy named Patrick, or Packy, McCreary, who shares the same last name as that officer Manny was chopping it up with. Interesting. So we watch the deal through the scope, and of course, in the GTA world, a drug deal can never go well, and the sellers unexpectedly up pole on Packy, and I waste them from up on high with the sniper, which does huge damage, has great sound effects, and it was always fun to watch the enemy ragdolls flop over from my shots. But also, my aim was complete trash here. But at least we saved that guy Packy. And we meet back at Elizabeta's, where Nico meets Johnny Klebitz, the Lost and Damned DLC protagonist, and another well-known Algonquin-based drug dealer named Playboy X, who all head out to do a drug deal using heroin that Johnny's gang, the Lost MC, had stolen from a rival biker gang, the edgy-as-fuck sounding Angels of Death. And this all happened off-screen in the Lost and the Damned DLC. We tried to do the heroin deal, but of course, no deal can ever go well in GTA land, and we accidentally waltz right into an LCPD sting, and the buyers reveal themselves, and the trio have to shoot their way out of the building, fighting off new shooters to escape. And we're 0 for 2 working with Elizabeta so far. And I believe this is the mission that actually unlocks access to the island, as the bridges are finally reopened. And the only way to reach the other islands, besides boat or chopper, is over these bridges. So you'll make many trips across them over the course of the game. But these bridges are interesting because for some reason, Liberty City residents seemingly forget how to drive in a straight line while crossing these bridges. And these guys love to switch lanes without turn signals, rear-end each other, and create car jams from cars switching lanes too much. Which I feel has to be the developers trolling the player when they're trying to speed down the bridges in the middle of traffic. So they throw a car out there to switch lanes right in front of your car's face, just to keep you on your toes. But man, finally, Algonquin is my favorite part of the map, as there's plenty of straight long streets to rip down, and it's probably one of the most accurate and detailed recreations of Manhattan ever put to code. And it's so cool to check out the in-game versions of real-life places, like the Empire State Building that we can go to the top of, Central Park, which is now Middle Park, Times Square, Radio City Music Hall, and plenty of others. Although obviously, it's way smaller than the real Manhattan. But Algonquin really captures the atmosphere and the aura of the place perfectly. And at this point in the game, the story really starts to open up, and Nico will be working for several different people with their own storylines and conflicts simultaneously. So to make things as simple as possible, I'll break it down from character to character story, and I'll start by rounding out Elizabeta's story. Nico around this time also gets a call from Michelle, who I've more or less been completely ignoring, and she seems very concerned about us working with that dope slinger Elizabeta. But Nico is a big boy and can make his own decisions, and he blows her off like a boss.
If you need help with anything, Nico, just speak to me. If you want to get something off your chest, I'm a good listener, you know?
I know, Michelle. I really appreciate your concern, but I can look after myself. I'm a big boy, and I must make my own decisions. See you soon.
Yeah, Nico. See you soon.
back at Elisabetta's place, we find her arguing with little Jacob about some stolen cocaine, alleging that some contacts Jacob introduced to Elisabetta had gone rogue and stolen her coke, and now she's real pissed at him.
Fucking reggae idiot bitch!
You want blood clot, cause I don't even bomber clot rate, you know.
Stop speaking that gibberish!
Fuck bomber clot pussy old girl, you know this?
And she's also growing more and more edgy and paranoid about the cops busting her ass. And I'd be nervous too if my drug deals kept failing spectacularly like they've been doing. And she forces Nico to go get her snow back, which we get back after a pretty big firefight in the GTA recreation of the abandoned shell of a former smallpox hospital that's on the real-world Roosevelt Island in New York City, which, as someone who's seen the place in person, was a pretty cool little mission. And we kill the drug dealers inside and escape the cops who chase after us. But as we meet with Jacob to hand the coke back over, Michelle then appears from around a corner and reveals to the two that she's been a government informant this whole time, tasked with monitoring Nico's movements. What? Her suspiciously new apartment and unusual levels of interest in Nico and his activities all make sense now. And this betrayal stings Nico pretty badly.
You fucking bitch.
But personally, I never really cared about their relationship. This lady was sus from the jump, and Nico, and me, have other shit to worry about besides bowling for some cooter. And she says that the feds are about to bust Elisabetta for dealing, but luckily for our guy Nico, well, luckily in a sense, Michelle says that Nico and Jacob won't be arrested for being mass murdering drug runners, as Michelle's employers find Nico's shooter skill set to be far too useful, and she takes the coke off of us and tells Nico to meet her at her government office in Algonquin later on. But after that, we return to Elisabetta's apartment, and she's really tweaking now. The walls are closing in around her, she's convinced that the feds are gonna bust her ass any minute, and she's not exactly wrong on that. You know, her friends have apparently all snitched on her to the glowies too. So naturally, she snorts some coke to calm herself down and clear her head. But then, Manny and his cameraman barge in and start accosting Elisabetta for being a drug dealer who is tarnishing the sanctity of the streets. But Manny doesn't realize that Elisabetta is in the throes of a coke-fueled paranoid breakdown, and she grabs a gun and suddenly pops him and the cameraman in the head, and nobody even cares.
Well, he said he was going to bust a dealer.
So we then have to do a funny mission, where we have to drive the bodies to a sketchy doctor so we can harvest their internal organs. And anytime you crash your car, the trunk pops open to reveal Manny and the cameraman's bodies. And the cops will chase you if they see it. So you gotta hop out and manually close the trunk when it happens. But we deliver the bodies, and that ties up Elisabetta's quest chain, who gets arrested off screen after this. And you can later hear on the radio that she got sentenced to 300 years in prison. Whew, tough scene. And we also start working for Playboy X as well. Damn, Nico getting passed around the Liberty City underworld like a blunt. But as Nico and Playboy talk business at his Algonquin penthouse, in walks Dwayne Forge, Playboy X's old street mentor, who just got out of an almost decades-long stint in prison. Dwayne used to run a sizable drug empire until he was thrown in the can in the late 90s. And in the time since, his former protege here, Playboy X, has taken over his drug operation to plenty of success, which we can see by his cushy penthouse apartment. But there's some clear tension between the two. It seems that Playboy had left Dwayne to rot in prison, and he hadn't even visited him in years, and he doesn't even know that he got out, never bothering to check his calls from his former crack sensei.
What's going down?
You didn't tell me you was getting out? Man, I would've laid on a party, got some freaks out. Shh.
I called. Couple of times.
Man, hey, Dwayne, this is Nico.
Hey.
Nico Dwayne Ford. Taught me everything I know.
Psst, not everything.
But we can't talk about that now. Nico has to go shoot up a construction site full of union shooters to break a strike using the Pinkerton method to get a construction project that Playboy is invested in up and running again. And working for Playboy also opens us up to work with Dwayne, whose life is the exact opposite of Playboy's. Dwayne lives in an apartment so horrifically shitty that it looks like it belongs in Silent Hill 2. He's depressed and is scorned by all his former friends and associates. Nobody wants to do business with him or even just hang out with him. Playboy has let money forget where he came from and made him switch up on his day ones. And he treats Dwayne like a nuisance rather than a friend and his former mentor. And even Dwayne's girlfriend, who he fully supported from prison with cars, apartments, and money, has completely ghosted him and is now fucking around with a guy who helped get Dwayne arrested in the first place. His life is just complete ass.
Sometimes I just want to end this shit. Just bam. But I ain't there yet.
So Nico takes pity on the guy and relates to his struggles with coping with his traumatic past. And we track down his bum ex-girlfriend for him, who can either choose to kill or spare. And I let her live, as I don't think Nico would just coldly execute a woman over some relationship drama he's barely involved in. But we kill her new man and Dwayne snitch as a fair compromise. And we also helped Dwayne by shooting up a strip club that he used to own, killing the hoods who took it from him after he got sent to the doghouse in an extremely chaotic firefight. And shooting up a strip club is just pure distilled GTA. And although it was pretty fun to light that strip club up, it was a pretty terrible move for Dwayne and Playboy X's relationship, as Playboy was in business with the owners that we just capped. So this probably won't end well, again. But shortly after I complete the mission, we get a call from Mallory, who is worried that Roman has been kidnapped, as nobody has heard from him in a while. And soon enough, that bastard Dmitry Raskolov texts Nico a picture of Roman bound up, bloodied, and with a shotgun to his head, which activates his Balkan rage.
You've crossed the line, Dmitri.
And during the firefight to save Roman, Nico's yelling his head off about getting Roman back. And it's a great way to show how much he actually cares about Roman, as despite all his flaws and issues, Nico's loyalty to his family never wavers. And after another huge gunfight, and about 25 dead Russians later, we rescue Roman, who we learn was kidnapped after accidentally gambling in a den Dmitri controlled. So we snatched him up in hopes of killing Nico in this carefully prepared trap. Classic Roman.
We're going to die. I don't want to die, man. Not like this. How would you like to die? Reason on my 100th birthday? I don't fucking know. I'm scared, you cold bastard.
But anyway, after that, we then talk to Playboy X, who says that Dwayne needs to be killed. He's uncooperative, hostile, and straight up unstable in Playboy's eyes, who justifies his hypothetical Dwayne murder by comparing it to the time Jesus had to kill John the Baptist in the Bible.
You know, Jesus, he did some crazy shit too. I mean, everyone does. He killed people. He killed that John the Baptist cat. He did what he had to.
I don't think you're correct about that.
And Dwayne will call us up later, and he really puts Nico between a rock and a hard place, as he asks Nico to kill Playboy for him, as he rightly suspects that Playboy is looking to take him out, which gives Nico the option to either kill Playboy X or Dwayne, the game's first real big decision, with some fairly large gameplay ramifications. If you side with Playboy and kill Dwayne, you'll get $25,000 as payment, but then Playboy will switch up on you like he did Dwayne, and it'll tell you that he can no longer associate with Nico for killing Dwayne, even having the gall to scold him for being so heartless, and like the snake he is, he slithers out of the story from that point.
You nothing but a cold-hearted killer, man. I mean, where's the love? Where's your heart, homie? Man, you ain't cool.
But if you kill Playboy for Dwayne, Dwayne will reveal that he had the deed to Playboy's penthouse this whole time, which you now get to live in as a new safe house, which also comes with a free outfit inspired by Claude, the protagonist from Grand Theft Auto 3, and you can also unlock Dwayne as a friend, if you respond well to an email that he sends you later on. And now in this playthrough, I killed Dwayne, but looking back on it, I regret that decision. Kind of a lot, actually. Playboy X is a complete snake who would abandon anyone at any time if it meant enriching himself, and your reward for killing him is just cash, which you get plenty of throughout story missions. And the only thing I really spent the money on was ammo for guns, the occasional health glizzy, and body armor, as Grand Theft Auto 4 isn't very good at providing interesting things for the player to spend their hard-earned cash on. We can't trick out our guns or cars, and hell, there's no need to buy cars at all. Just steal the one you want and store it for later. Easy. Nor can we even buy property or anything else like that. You get money so you can arm yourself, to complete missions, to get more money, and then spend that money on more ammo and armor, and repeat ad infinitum. Which makes siding with Playboy X feel a little useless, whereas if you side with Dwayne, you get an extra house and a new friend to hang out with, which is much more worthwhile for this game. But well, you gotta live with the choices you make. Something that Nico is all too familiar with. But now that that's all tied up, we also start working for Francis McCreary, who blackmails Nico into fixing his own blackmail issues.
There's a guy trying to blackmail me.
Who?
I don't know. I did what I did. I made a mistake. That don't make me the devil.
I don't really care one way or another.
As we kill potential whistleblowers who want to expose Francis's corruption and performing a convoluted assassination plan to kill a lawyer who is going after Francis by applying to work at his firm, getting an interview, buying an expensive suit, and then killing the lawyer in his office during the interview, and then making a chaotic escape, instead of just like, I don't know, pulling a drive-by when he leaves his office or something, or planting a bomb on his car. Something a bit more straightforward, I suppose, alongside some other assassinations to keep any other would-be whistleblowers out there completely silent. But once done with Francis, we go meet Michelle, whose real name is actually Karen.
Whatever you say, Michelle, or whatever your name is.
It's Karen. My name is Karen.
Interesting. And you whore for the government.
And we meet her at her government office, the United Liberty Paper Building, which is actually a front for the International Affairs Agency, or the GTA World's version of the CIA. And we meet her handler, a guy whose name we never actually learn. His contact name in our phone is just UL Paper.
Who are you? The FIB?
The FIB? Do I look homosexual? Do you think I care about the size of your Johnson?
And he voluntells us to do some government-sanctioned dirty work. Otherwise, he'll let the FIB feds arrest Nico for all his crimes committed as a GTA protagonist, which will likely give him around 1,000 consecutive life sentences. So he first has Nico off a Russian guy who was spreading some anti-American freedom rhetoric online. And we gotta chase him down and shoot him dead during a speedy car chase. And Oleg here must have a titanium skull or something. He can take several bullets to the head and just keep on driving. The PC aiming in this game is so strong, the game has to give this guy Viltrumite level physical resistance, otherwise it would be a very short chase. And being a government killer isn't ideal for old Nico, but Mr. Paper here says that if we continue to help him, he may help us find someone that we're looking for, namely, one of the 2 survivors from Nico's old squad, an offer we really can't refuse. So we do more killing for old Uncle Sam, mowing down a group of Russians, stealing a helicopter after following it from the road, and using said helicopter, have Nico and little Jacob chase another Russian goon flying his own helicopter, Nico driving the chopper while Jacob shoots an RPG from the passenger seat to blow up the Russian chopper. And we have to hold the chopper steady so Jacob can land a direct hit. And man, these helicopter controls on PC are straight up booty. It's very obvious how clearly designed for controllers that the helicopters are in this game. I had to remap the controls a solid degree just to get basic control over these damn things, and I fucked up flying these things more than a little. The game's realistic physics really coming around to bite the controls in the ass, by making these helicopters feel damn near uncontrollable at times, and I found flying helicopters to be pretty frustrating overall, at least on the keyboard and mouse controls. The physics making these things an unwieldy nightmare, plus the awful default keyboard and mouse controls, made me dread any mission with a helicopter involved. But Nico and Jacob still managed to pull off this Mission Impossible ass assassination, and little Jacob snipes the other helicopter with an RPG warhead, and Mr. Paper is very pleased with our work.
We shut down that chopper for you.
You think I don't know that? You think I've been sitting around scratching my balls with my head up my ass?
Promising to find the man who betrayed Nico's squad for him, but we won't hear from him for a long while. Plus, he's a GTA Universe fed, so we can probably trust him as far as we can throw him. So we start looking for other work in the meantime. Namely, with that guy we saved from those evil drug dealers, Packy McCreary, who calls up Nico and asks him to come work with him. So we meet Packy at his house, and we meet his mother and his sister Kate too, who is probably the most normal character in the entire game. She's a friendly, honest, and modest girl in a family of foul-mouthed thugs and robbers, and she seems pretty into Nico's Balkan aura pretty much immediately, and we can date her throughout the story, but she never lets Nico tap that, unfortunately, and my date with her didn't go very well. Nico got wasted at the bar, he started drunkenly waving his assault rifle around, and then crashed the whip while being chased by police officers. And I guess girls don't really like it when you do that. But anyway, the McCrearys are a pretty storied criminal family. Their father was the head of the Irish Mafia in Liberty City, and all 3 of the McCreary boys, Patrick, Derek, and the family's current leader, Gerald, are all some kind of criminal goon for a living. And Packy has recruited Nico here to help him rob a shipment of some unspecified valuable material being brought into Liberty City via boat. And the Paxter here learned about it from some guy named Ray Bacino, a wise guy who works for the Alderney-based Pegarino crime family, who wants a cut of the goods in exchange for the info. So we jack the shipment after shooting up the entire pier, and we meet Ray at his lockup, who says that he may have work for Nico later on. And we then help Packy and his thug friends shoot up and rob a warehouse belonging to a rival Italian mob called the Ancelottis. And after that, we meet Packy at his house, and finally meet his older brothers. We meet Derek, an edgy heroin addict who kind of looks like Irish Phil Leotardo, and Gerald, who's like a bigger and meaner version of Packy. But Jerry ain't joining us on this job, and they're all doing some pre-game lines, cause today, we're robbing the Bank of Liberty. And this starts one of the game's most famous missions, 3-Leaf Clover. And it's a really fun and ultra-violent mission where we have to rob the bank and then have a huge shootout on foot with the police as we try to escape, blasting cops and noose goons all over the city streets. And it's pretty exciting and pretty challenging too. There's dozens of cops trying to murk your ass, and it made the mission pretty tense for me, because I really was not looking to redo the whole drive over and firefight again. so your execution of the mission has to be pretty tight, and there's very little room for mistakes due to the huge amount of enemies you gotta gun down. And don't get caught out in the open. But we escape the cops by running through the subway tunnels, and then jacking a car and hiding for a little bit. And then we're home free. And for our work, we get a cool $250,000 cut of the loot. Packy is now our friend and available to hang out with. And our work gets Derek and Gerald to trust Nico, who then offer him missions later on. And we also start working for Ray Bacino too, and Nico strikes up a deal with the fella.
Sure.
And because I'm trying to find someone.
Okay, maybe we can help. See how we do.
If Nico helps Ray, Ray will help Nico find the man he's looking for, who we know is hiding out in Liberty City. So we do a hit for Ray, and we also get involved in the odyssey of the traveling diamonds, and pick up some planted diamonds and trash bags by pretending to be some garbage men. Okay, these diamonds switch hands several times, and are our main plot point in the base game and both story DLCs, and these things are constantly getting stolen and restolen in some big mobster circle jerk. But here's the general path they take. The diamonds originally came in on the platypus with Nico, like we see in the intro, and a local nightclub owner, a guy named Tony Prince, aka Gay Tony, was set to buy them once they made landfall in Liberty City. But as with all ill-fated deals in the GTA universe, the sale to Tony was crashed by Johnny Klebitz and the Lost MC, who steal the diamonds and then hide them in the trash for Ray Bacino, which we then pick up with Ray's trash guys in this mission. However, after we pick up the diamonds, the garbage men that we worked with decide that they want to take the ice for themselves.
I got two options. Option 1, you rip me off. Option 2, Luca and his buddies ripped us both off.
Hey! I left them with the stuff to bring to you as instructed.
And Nico has to find and eliminate them in a restroom shootout. And get the diamonds back and hand them back off to Ray. And we then go to sell the diamonds to the Jewish mafia at the Libertonian Museum with that biker dude Johnny again. And seeing Nico and Johnny act all chummy is pretty funny too, because they'd probably try to kill each other if they knew what the other did to them. Nico killed Johnny's gangmate, which leads to a biker war that eventually destroys the Lost MC from within. And Johnny was the one who was hired by Dimitri to kidnap Roman. Some rich dramatic irony going on here. And we meet the diamond buyers to do a little show and tell of the product. But just before the deal might actually go through without any problems, the universal GTA rule activates, and the protagonist of the Ballad of Gay Tony, armed with an AK-47, pops out from a nearby window and drills the Jewish mobsters, causing the deal to shit the bed. With Johnny scooping up the cash and making a break for it, while Nico has to shoot his way out of the museum empty-handed. The diamonds, however, are taken by the shooter, Luis Lopez, in the Ballad of Gay Tony DLC, who returns them to his boss. And after that kerfuffle, we help Ray kill some Lost MC bikers who stole his cash, chasing him over the subway tracks in a pretty cool pursuit. And the lead biker got that titanium skin or something. The man can take a lot of bullets to the spine. And once that's done, Ray calls us up and tells us that he may have a lead on one of the men Nico is looking for, a guy named Florian Kravich.
What are you waiting for? Throw it.
There's some fool called Talbot Daniels over in the Triangle. He's into me for about 10 G's, and he says he might know something about Florian Kravich.
Florian?
Your days of searching are over, my friend.
So we scoop up Roman for what's about to come next, and we soon find Florian's apartment. But it's not what we're really expecting. We find Florian all right.
I've come for you, Florian.
Oh, go away!
But he now goes by the name Bernie Crane, an extremely flamboyant gay man. He's got a ridiculous voice and waves his arms around in the air very, I don't know how else I can say it, gaily.
Can we stop with the fat jokes, Florian?
It's Bernie now. After I came here, I wanted a complete change, so I became Bernie Crane. I'm sorry about the fat thing. You're still kind of cute.
And he's living his best life in Liberty City as a life coach and a socialite. And he's even banging the homophobic deputy mayor on the down low.
He's married. It's so doomed.
And Bernie here says that he himself was wondering if Nico, or the third survivor, a man we learn is named Darko Brevich, had been the one to betray them. And it doesn't seem like Bernie here is lying, or even capable of being our betrayer. So Darko must be Nico's true target, but nobody knows where he could be. And Bernie heard that he may still be hiding out in Europe somewhere, and Nico is no closer to finding his betrayer and his closure, much to his frustration. So close, yet so far. But we can do some work for Bernie after meeting him. We kill a homophobic stalker of his, kill some of Dimitri's goons who try to blackmail his deputy mayor fuck buddy, and protecting Bernie from some Russian attack boats during a boat outing. In helping him out, we'll have Bernie gift you the Deputy Mayor's Infernus for our help, which is essentially a GTA Lamborghini. So thanks, man. Pays to be an ally, I guess. And we also help out the other McCreary bros, helping out Gerald by pretending to be an Albanian. And killing an Ancelotti family capo in hopes of breaking up the Ancelotti-Albanian alliance. And by helping Derek with his missions, we can finally get access to an RPG. And we'll need it, because a whole kill team of Albanians in boats and helicopters appear to jack an incoming shipment of counterfeit bills. So we need to blow their asses to smithereens from our boat. And using the RPG in this game is just so great. The warhead is fully physics simulated, and sometimes can even bounce off surfaces at times to some wild effects. And shooting down helicopters usually always ends in some sort of insanely chaotic result. They either explode or get punched out of the sky and tumble to the earth and then explode. And it still looks and feels amazing to see all these physics play out. And we also help Derek by making an extremely ballsy prison convoy break, creating a roadblock in the Knot Holland Tunnel, blowing up several police cars and killing many more officers, just so we can bust out one guy, a man named Aiden O'Malley, who was arrested alongside Derek back in the 90s, but Derek had betrayed and snitched on him to the police to receive a lighter sentence. And Aiden had been shit-talking him in prison ever since, so now we're gonna shut him up for good. A bit overkill in my opinion, but whatever. But once we finish up with Derek, Packy, Francis, and Jill McCreary's McQuests, Nico then gets pulled up on by Francis, who was pissed to learn that we were working with his brother Derek.
He's an idiot and a coward.
It's not my business.
Whatever he stood for, he betrayed. He only left here in the first place because he was caught stealing from the mafia. He's a pathetic wretch.
And Francis claims that Derek is threatening to speak to a journalist to tell all about his family's crimes and Francis's corruption. And Francis then demands Nico follow him to a meeting with Derek, where Nico is to then snipe his brother's melon open with a sniper rifle.
Just put him out of his misery.
Fuck you.
No, fuck you, pal.
To shut him up forever. And after that, Derek will call you up, and he'll ask you to protect him instead, and kill Francis on some Cain and Abel shit. And we then have to make a very similar choice to the Dwayne/Playboy X decision. Snipe Francis or Derek? They both use Nico for their own gain. Francis to cover his ass, and Derek to fuel his heroin addiction. But at least Derek helped me out with the bank robbery and a few other jobs, and I kinda take pity on this old washed up smack addict. Whereas Francis was a total asshole to Nico the entire time we worked with him. Nico risking life and limb just to keep his ass from getting lit up by corruption exposés. And we all know that he's no better than his murderous robber brothers, no matter what he says about it. So I decide to help out that old poor Phil Leotardo lookalike and blast Francis right in the dome. In doing so, will increase your relationship with Packy. But if you off Derek instead, you get some pretty unique rewards, as on top of cash, you also get the ability to call up Francis and remove your wanted level whenever you want, thanks to his LCPD connections, as long as it's 3 stars or lower. And it's a pretty interesting choice too, as there's no true right or wrong answer to this dilemma, and leaves the player to think about the situation and decide what the overall better choice would be. But after that, we even attend the funeral of the McCreary bro we just offed. King Von levels of disrespect from Nico here. But as the service ends, the Albanians we've been helping Gerald and Derek fuck with pull up and shoot up the funeral service, and Nico and Packy have to gun them all down in a massive gunfight, before escaping the cops while driving in the hearse, where we can then finally bury Francis. Just your average McCreary family bonding experience. And while we were dealing with that Francis-Derek decision and its aftermath, old Gerald was arrested off screen for racketeering, and we meet him at the penitentiary, where he cooks up a scheme to extort the rival Ancelotti family by kidnapping their daughter Gracie Ancelotti. So Nico poses as a potential buyer for a pink Feltzer car that she's selling online, but instead of test driving it, we take the opportunity to kidnap her. However, Gracie is a bit more psychotic than Nico expected, and she tries to wrestle control of the car away from you, making it jerk around harshly while she's fighting over the steering wheel with Nico, until Nico clocks her out.
Shut up! Peace at last.
Where we then take her hostage and send pics of Gracie bound up to her father, which eventually works, and the Ancelottis send Gay Tony and that dude who upped pull on us in the museum to exchange diamonds he snatched up in the museum for Gracie's release. And the deal, again, almost goes through. But of course, these diamonds are cursed to ruin any deal involving them, and that fucker Ray Bulgarian crashes the deal to steal the diamonds back for himself. It's his ship they came in on in the first place. So Nico and Packy have to kill Bulgarian's goons, while Gay Tony and Luis escape with Gracie. And once all the goons are killed, the one last goon alive decides to say fuck it all, and he throws the diamonds into a passing gravel truck to end up God knows where. And the odyssey of the traveling diamonds continues some more. Stay tuned to the epic conclusion to their journey in the Ballad of Gay Tony. And once that's done and squared away, we start working for the Pegarino family more often, working for another Pegarino associate, a guy named Phil Bell, who despite only being 10% Italian by blood, is on the same level as Ray in terms of status and power in the family.
Did you hear about our friend, the guy with the thing?
Yeah, you mean Harry, the guy with the hat?
No, the guy with the, you know, the bada beep bada boop.
Yeah, the guy with the... and the...
Yeah, that guy.
He's also banging his boss Pegarino's wife, but Jimmy doesn't seem to care about it much. He's got his own side hoe that he likes better than his own bitch wife.
I know him and Angie are friends, but that don't worry me too much.
Maybe he's trustworthy.
And he seems to even encourage their relationship. But Phil's missions aren't super narratively important though, so I'll spare you most of the details. But by working with Phil, we snag a large supply of heroin for the Pegarinos, gunning down innumerable triads and cops just to hold on to them in some pretty difficult combat-heavy missions that I barely scraped past with my life. And we also start working for the Don himself, Jimmy Pegarino, who lives in a nice big suburban Alderney mansion, who's channeling some Tony Soprano here. But despite the nice house and the sizable gang under his command, Jimmy P here is seen as a small fry at best, and a joke at worst by the other mobs and criminal organizations in Liberty City. Jimmy is arrogant and callous towards his most loyal men, constantly shouting at his bodyguard for being dumb.
Hey!
Hey!
Is Mr. Pegarino around?
Sure, I'll get him. Boss! Anthony, will you shut up? In fact, will you fuck off? Go on, get out of here. Don't come back till you get a brain implant or something. I'm sorry. I'm nice to see you, Nico.
You too.
I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. First up, can you kill this shithead?
And he's selfish, short-sighted, and is obsessed with increasing his status and joining something called the Commission, a sort of governing body for the various Italian mobs of Liberty City. And we see his incompetence on our first mission with him. Jimmy wants to meet with the Pavano family, so he can assert himself and give the Pavanos a little cash-based peace offering, so he can hopefully join the Commission. But the Pavanos, who Jimmy even let operate out in Alderney in the first place, despite being based in Algonquin, betray him, kill his two bodyguards, and shoot and wound Jimmy himself, and Nico has to wipe out the Pavanos and rescue Jimmy, who would be dead without him. And on the car ride home after Nico's 47th failed deal attempt, Jimmy, in a rage, then starts a war with the Pavanos, sending Nico to slaughter their men in a car garage to send a message that he's real mad at them. And later on, we meet Jimmy again on his porch, who brandishes a shotgun in Nico's face, asking if he snitched on him. But Nico has never snitched in his entire life. And Pegarino says that he had learned that his bodyguard that he bullies constantly and treats like shit, whose name is Anthony by the way, was wearing a wire.
I raised that kid like he was my own. I beat him like he was my own son. When my son killed himself, Anthony became my son. Now this, the world is a cunt!
And when Phil called him up to verbally mag dump into him, Anthony got so distressed that he had a damn heart attack, and he's now recovering in the hospital. And Jimmy sends Nico to silence Anthony for good, and we have to infiltrate the hospital and kill him. And I didn't even know that you could take some notes from Agent 47, and you can steal and wear some nurse scrubs to gain access to his hospital room, and then shut off his life support before fleeing from some cops. Which is pretty clever, actually. That's way more creative than my solution. But back at Pegarino's house, things in the family are falling apart fast. Jimmy and Phil were served legal papers, police are cracking down on them hard, some of their boys got locked up, and Ray is currently trying to turn Jimmy against Phil Bell, as Jimmy is convinced that he's got a rat amongst his two main guys, Ray and Phil, and therefore must kill one of them to shut them up for good and to send a message that he's still stern and strong. And although he's just completely speculating on the existence of a rat, he eventually decides that Ray needs to get whacked. Jimmy obviously favors Phil and barely trusts Ray to begin with, fearing that Ray is too selfish and ambitious to ever be fully obedient to Jimmy. So he sends Nico to obliterate Ray's car convoy and end that sleazebag for good in an extra violent hit and run. Now after this, we aren't finished with Jimmy quite yet, but in the meantime, we get another call from UL Paper, who after a pretty interesting conversation.
I'm helping you find the man you're after. I'm not some reunite old boyfriend or something. Look, I was in the office. I know it gets close. I know what it feels like to get close to a man.
I'm sure you do.
Tells us to meet and help out an old and dying bedridden mobster named John Gravelli, the head of the Gravelli family, one of the actual serious Italian crime families that have a seat on the commission. The Gravellis are so influential, in fact, they're in league with the damn government and have a sort of shady backroom deal with them. Or at least the UL Paper contact, where the not CIA lets the Gravellis and the commission operate more or less freely, while in turn, the Gravellis help the government by keeping crime in Liberty City under control. But the relationship between the two is never fully explained, and the work we do for UL Paper is very enigmatic and unexplained in its actual goals. But interestingly, John Gravelli's concept art is way different from his in-game character model. In the game, John never leaves his hospital bed and stays in his red pajamas until the day he dies. But in his concept art, he's all suited up, looks like he just got done beating the shit out of someone, and is smoking on a cigar. So it seems based on this concept art, John was originally going to have a much different or bigger role in the story. But whatever the original plot for John here was, Rockstar probably cut it for time, and at this point in the game, the story was already starting to drag a little bit, and these John Gravelli missions felt a bit like busy work to me. So they probably reduced the size and scope of his subplot to get the story wrapped up quicker. But that's just my theory, at least. So we do a few jobs for John to help him maintain his power from his hospital bed, helping him protect a politician from Russian mobsters, killing the Korean guy we helped out with Derek's RPG boat chase. He even recognizes Nico right before we end his entire shit.
Hey, don't I know you?
And killing even more rival mob goons and destroying their drugs. In doing so, finally has Mr. Paper deliver unto Nico his grand prize, the man he spent the last decade hunting, Darko Brevic, who the G-Men found hiding out in Bucharest. So we pick up Roman again to see this through to the end, and we head to the airport, where the feds dump Darko for us to deal with him however we want. And Nico gets in Darko's face and says the names of all his friends who died thanks to him.
Zato što smo bili prijatelji. Svi smo odrasli zajedno. Mitar, Dragan, Goran, Mio. Mogu da nastavim. Sviju, a?
We were friends, but I had other friends.
But Darko reveals that their squad leader, Goran, had killed some of Darko's own friends, his neighbors, which heavily influenced his choice to betray them. Nico then demands to know how much he got paid for selling his squad out, and Darko says that he got paid $1,000 for betraying them.
Strange choices! How much?
1,000.
You killed my friends for $1,000.
How much do you charge to kill someone?
You ruined me, you fuck!
$1,000 measly dollars for the lives of Nico's childhood friends, and the life of trauma and regret Nico wasn't prepared to live with. Darko then wails at Nico to kill him, while Roman tells us to leave him be, as it seems his miserable existence is punishment enough for his crimes. And we can see just by looking at him that he's sickly, bruised, and a complete degenerate junkie, and we then have to make the choice to either spare or finally kill Darko, and it would be so easy to just cap him in the head and leave it, like so many other thugs and strangers we've killed throughout the entire game so far. But deep down, Nico knows that killing Darko won't change anything. It won't make him feel any better, nor would it bring him any closer to finding the closure and inner peace that he's desperately hunting for. He'd just be another corpse, and the pain would still remain. So, with Roman, like the angel on our shoulder to Darko's devil, tells Nico to let it be, and I choose to walk away, leaving this poor cretin to suffer internally for what he did, leaving him to his pathetic existence. And I think Nico sums up the choice best on the drive home afterwards.
What made you spare me? I don't know. So long, he would just be dead. Like everyone else from our village, I was the one that survived the first attack. Living is not easy. I would live for killing Darko as well. But then when I looked at him, I realized that nothing would change if I killed him. Revenge would not somehow shut the book on the legacy. Only those who die get closure.
Only those who die get closure. The living do not. And we'd only be doing that bastard a favor by offing him. He looks like shit. And we even have a conversation with Florian about Darko, where he praises Nico for making the right choice, even saying that he won over him. And it's a nice little conversation that rounds out Bernie's segment of the story. Nico ending the call by finally calling him Bernie, showing that Nico is finally moving on from the past and is focusing on his future. But with Darko, the McCreary's, and Pegarino's missions all tied up, we finally enter the endgame of Grand Theft Auto 4, where we have to make one last choice. We get a call from Jimmy P, asking to meet at his strip club, where Nico does something highly unusual. He actually orders some alcohol. But at this point, he's earned at least one drink, I suppose. But then Jimmy walks in before Nico can even take a sip, and he requests one last favor from him. He wants us to oversee a heroin deal with Dmitry Raskolov, the man Nico hates most in all of Liberty City, who flat out refuses at first, But Jimmy won't budge on this deal. It's his last chance to get some cash and status, or else he's fucked for good. And he forces Nico into this deal with the devil, whether he likes it or not.
Real? What the fuck is real? Real because it's you?
Real because it's my last chance!
Then good luck.
No! I need you to get that age. I need the money. I looked out for you, you know, people wanted to whack you. I said no. Now I need you. And I'll pay a lot of money.
Listen, Mr. Pegarino, I already told you. I got
No! You listen, you dumb immigrant fuck!
So Nico calls up his #1 guy, Roman, to discuss what he should do. And Roman actually reveals where Dimitri is. He's on the Platypus, the very boat we started the game on. And then Nico thinks to himself, what if I say, fuck this deal, and go kill Dimitri directly and put an end to his shit for good? But surprisingly, Roman wants to bury the hatchet with Raskolov and the Russians, despite Dimitri burning down his apartment and business, kidnapping and shooting him in the gut, and kidnapping him again and beating the shit out of him. Roman is ready to forget it all so they can make a fat bag of cash and go on a lavish vacation or something. It's a very Roman perspective on the situation. Nico then calls up Kate, his kinda, sorta, but not really girlfriend, and she tells him to not take the deal, and to stick to his principles, and to tell that Ivan to go kick rocks. And I agree. It's very clear Raskolov cannot be trusted. He used and then betrayed Nico, kidnapped and brutalized his cousin, and constantly tried to kill him with his Russian goons. And we just forget all of that to save the reputation of Jimmy fucking Pegarino? I'll pass. So I choose the revenge path and head for the Platypus to put that Russian worm in the dirt. And it's a pretty tough and long fight to reach the cargo hold of the Platypus, but Nico blasts all these goons, opens the big cargo doors, and we soon confront Dimitri after ending all his men. But before Nico shoots Dimitri's head off, he says that some people will be very unhappy about his death, but Nico don't care.
I should have put you out of your misery a long time ago. Goodbye, Dimitri.
But now that our mass murder revenge mission is complete and Raskolov's brain is leaking out of his ears, it's time for a wedding. Did I mention that? Shit, my bad. Well, eventually, Roman asked Mallory to marry him. He loves her so much, he's willing to give up hookers and threesomes with Brucey to settle down with her. A big sacrifice for my man Roman. And she said yes. I do want that fat boy. So Nico picks up Kate from her house and drives to the wedding with his +1, where Roman and Mallory finally get hitched, and all our friends are here. Little Jacob, Bernie, Brucey, Nico and Kate, and even real Batman is here. But as they celebrate on the church steps, Jimmy Pegarino pulls a drive-by, shooting on the crowd.
You fucking double-crossed an immigrant shit!
Pissed at Nico for abandoning his deal and killing his buyer, Dimitri. And he blasts Kate while trying to aim for Nico before speeding off. His aim is fucking trash. And Nico is crushed by the loss of Kate and blames himself for her death. Kate getting caught up in the crossfire of a criminal beef that she had no involvement in. And it's an awful reality check for poor Nico.
An ambulance! Call a fucking ambulance! She's dead! What? Oh, shit. Shit.
She told me to leave it. I thought I had. I thought it was over.
It's never over, Aya.
Nico, you can't blame yourself.
Of course I can. She's dead.
Easy. Are you brother, man? Easy. Calm down.
But we soon get a call from Jacob, who says he spotted some of Pegarino's men that we can follow to where he's hiding out. So we chase after his goons in their car with Jacob. Oh, and Roman's coming too. He wants to see this thing through to the end, even though this probably isn't the best place for him.
Where the fuck is this guy going?
Easy, my brother. Taking us to Pegarino. They need to chill. I'm not fucking chill. We're speeding down the highway and who knows how fast. Cars are coming toward us. People are shooting at us. How can you be chill? You've been smoking too much, Jacob.
So we follow the car to an old abandoned casino, where we shoot it up and chase after Pegarino, who then escapes on a boat. We have to chase him on a bike across the beach, and Jacob and Roman come in insanely clutch and pull up in a helicopter to chase Jimmy, Nico doing a pretty insane Mission Impossible tier stunt jump to grab onto the passing chopper. But while playing the game at 144 FPS, this QuickTime event to pull Nico up onto the chopper was completely busted, and instead of pulling Nico up, mashing spacebar just made the camera flicker between two different angles, forcing me to restart the mission while capped at 60 FPS. But once I pull Nico up, we then need to chase Peggy in the chopper while he shoots a barrage of RPGs at you, one of which is scripted to hit your chopper. But don't panic, and try to drive it towards Happiness Island, which will trigger a cutscene of Nico somehow landing this out-of-control chopper. Everyone in Liberty City has a pilot's license, I guess. And we jump out and chase Pegarino on foot and blast him, which triggers a cutscene of Nico calling a despondent Pegarino a joke and a bum criminal.
Big talk. You wanna know something funny?
Not really.
The commission. The old families. I know some of those guys. And they thought you were a fat fucking joke.
Whatever.
A joke.
And then shooting him right in the dome when Pegarino tries to draw on him. And Jacob and Roman then catch up with Nico. Roman saying that we won and we're free.
You did it.
Really? I don't know. What did I do?
But we're done. Now we can start making money. Freely.
I suppose so.
We won, man. We won!
But what exactly did we win? And Nico walks off without another word, the game ending on a shot of the Hillary Clinton-esque Statue of Happiness, a perfectly cynical and uncertain end to this dark and violent story. Because truly, what did we win? I mean, sure, we killed our biggest ops, Dimitri and Jimmy Pegarino, but Kate is dead, and Nico is now more or less adrift in the world, uncertain of what his purpose should be going forward. But wait a sec, what happens if you do the deal route? If you take that route, the story gets even darker. Nico and Phil Bell go to oversee the deal. But of course, Dimitri betrays Pegarino. Now who could have seen that coming? And he kills his men and steals the heroin and cash for himself. And Nico and Philly gotta shoot for their lives to get their money back at gunpoint. And after that, the wedding happens. But instead of Jimmy P clipping Kate in a drive-by, an assassin sent by Dimitri attacks and shoots and kills Roman instead. Now losing Kate definitely sucks for Nico. But to be honest, I never really cared about Kate all that much. I didn't really get deep into dating her and getting into her pants by taking her out to go bowling and playing pool. And losing her definitely stings, but losing Roman is an unfathomable reality for Nico. The man who convinced him to come to Liberty City in the first place, his closest family member, and the man who Nico risked his life to protect and help out several times, gunned down on his wedding day. Brutal. And the final mission will play out mostly the same, except Jimmy is replaced with Dimitri, and Dimitri even caps Jimmy in the face point blank during the mission. And you eventually chase him down to Happiness Island in a chopper-on-chopper pursuit, where Dimitri bleeds out with Nico lording over him. But in this ending, not only is Roman still dead, Mallory reveals that she was pregnant with his child, who will now grow up fatherless, and the game ends with a montage of Nico talking to his friends about Roman's death, and it's some really bleak shit. It's Cyberpunk 2077 bad ending credit scene level of depressing.
If you want anything, Nico, if you just want company, call me.
I want Roman back.
Don't let this ruin you, Nico. Don't let this make you even more insular and angry.
So this is what the dream feels like. This is the victory we longed for.
But I consider the revenge ending to be the proper ending for my guy Nico, as at least he can find some purpose with Roman's new family. But losing Roman seems like it would be too much for poor Nico, and he'd become an isolated, broken man from such a loss. But with that, that's Grand Theft Auto 4's main story complete. And although the story, in my opinion, is a bit too massive, meandering and complex with so many characters coming in and out of the story, along with endless shifting alliances, betrayals, schemes, and more, it can be a bit hard to fully keep track of the game's massive story and what exactly we're doing and for what purpose. But besides that, this is a fantastically dark and gritty story that really pulls no punches on how brutal the criminal life is and what it does to those who partake in it, as most of the characters here are cruel, greedy, untrustworthy, and most of all, hypocritical. And it does a great job in showing how pursuing money and power won't ever make you truly happy, just more violent and vindictive until you're dead in the ground. And Nico is now definitely one of my favorite Rockstar protagonists of all time, as despite being a stone-cold killer and all the immense evil that comes with being a GTA protagonist, the game does a great job in exploring Nico's depth, why he's so desensitized to murder and death through his past life and traumas in the Yugoslav wars, and despite that, we also see Nico's redeeming traits in some very compelling ways. Sure, he may be a murderous thug, robber, drug dealer, kidnapper, and a borderline terrorist, but he's also deeply loyal to his friends and family. He's always honest and pragmatic, and he's actually a pretty clever and surprisingly funny guy to be around. As long as he isn't being paid to kill you, of course. And his arc of finding the man who betrayed his squad and choosing to let him live is a great player-driven way to show how Nico has changed and gain a newer perspective on life from his time in Liberty City, and what it actually means to get closure for past traumas. Plus, of course, great voice acting and a fantastic script really bring Nico to life and make him feel like a real and complicated person. And I used to not really care for Nico, but now I'm one of his biggest fans. It's a really excellent story. And as for Grand Theft Auto 4 itself, while definitely showing its age in the graphics and lighting departments, alongside those annoying as shit frame rate based bugs and crashes, as well as some parts of the gameplay like the clunky as shit cover system, pretty bare bones shooting mechanics, this game is still really cutting edge and impressive in other aspects, especially the character physics and animations, car mechanics and their physics, and of course, the great story, writing and voice acting that still look, sound, and feel just as good as they did in 2008, barely aging at all in the 17 years since the original release. And I had a pretty great time revisiting this game and really paying attention to the story and characters and just driving around this dated yet still detailed and grand recreation of New York City. And GTA 4 was and still is a really great experience, and I definitely recommend giving it another go before GTA 6 drops, as not only is it still a pretty enjoyable game, but it's also a piece of gaming history and works amazingly as a time capsule for those late 2000s years. But that's it for today. I'll make the DLC portion of this video its own thing, and that'll hopefully be out pretty soon. I've already done all the work for it, but if we're still here, I love you very much. See you soon. Goodbye.